Everything is in motion. This is one day at a time. Everyone has cancer, and this is where I battle mine. What's up, guys? This is Cody from the Quarter Cows, and I'm here with my brand new show. This is third episode, number 3, Cubed. I think that's Cubed. Yeah, again, showing my intelligence. But this is my show. It's called Everyone Has Cancer. Don't worry. You may not have cancer, but a long time ago, I did. I was diagnosed with cancer in 2001. I got leukemia, and also known as ALL, which I guess the more intense version is AML. So of the cancers, I had the weakest one, but it was still the big C. Even I will downplay the fact that I had cancer. So this show is about the fact that for many years I've had people come up to me and tell me how courageous and how strong I was for getting through what I had gone through. And, but would all the while downplay, like I just did with ALL and AML, would downplay whatever they're going through in life. I would have friends that I got a buddy, I've brought him up before, that gets bronchitis every single year. Like he's asthmatic. He doesn't need a inhaler, but he is guaranteed bronchitis. I think the month of August, he just plans for it. And it's usually pretty bad. But, anytime August rolls around and he starts feeling that way, he always ends up saying it. And I've had it happen, not just him, but a lot of people will be like, well, it's not anything compared to what you went through. And there's a difference between bronchitis and cancer. But, and then I'd have friends that would be in the thralls of drug addiction, in the thralls of porn addiction, in the thralls of, problems with the fact that they are homosexual and they don't want to come out, and the pain they're going through internally because of it. Domestic abuse, there's sexual abuse, if you're the victim of molestation. There's so many, or if you had suicidal thoughts, if you battle depression, if you battle self-harming in general, if you battle any kind of thing, or if you have a friend, loved one, or a parent or brother or sister or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever that is passed away, that is harming themselves, and you're a part of it. There's so many forms of things that we need to get through in life, that when we're faced with it, there's no way through it. It's completely unique to us. And that's where I came up with the notion that everyone has their cancer. Everyone has that one thing in their life that they cannot imagine going through. But a lot of it has to deal with facing your own mortality, that having to change to survive, and having to do it alone, because it's something that tools that you have to, you ultimately have. And it's something that a good friend of mine said after the very first episode is, you can be given all the tools and you can have all the support, but ultimately it is your decision to get through it. Because when it comes down to it, in your heart, in your mind, and in your inner monologue, you kind of are alone in all that. They will never see everything through your eyes. And that's why it's, whatever you're going through is totally unique to you. And but I'll tell you one thing, I don't know the answers. I'm not here. This isn't not a show to tell you how to fix your life, because look, I have no idea how to do that. I have no idea how to get through what you are going through. And how I got through mine, I laid in bed and threw up a lot. Like that's how I see it. But because of it is where I see it is that, where I see it as something that I just kind of took it one day at a time, like my intro says. Other people saw it as inspirational. So, or as inspirational. Sorry, my voice cut off. And I think that's all it takes. Like you don't, no one who is an inspiration, I don't think any of them sit there and say, like lay in bed or lay in the throes of whatever issue they're going through and say, you know what, I'm going to be strong today. And none of them say, you know what, I'm going to pull through because this city needs me. No one does that. You lay there and wish this cup would pass. You lay there and wish this wasn't happening to you. And you do that for long enough, and then eventually the pain subsides, but you don't. And suddenly you look back and it's so far behind you. And, and that's just kind of how it works. But I'll tell you one thing about, your version of cancer, your version of my story, your version of pain. One, it's going to be totally unique to you. Let me say that. One, it's going to be totally unique to you. And two, it's going to make you the best version of you. Not the best version of a person, the best version of you yourself. Okay? What you're going through, you can search for meaning and search for, why me and all that stuff. Well, the reason is because you are unique. That the reason is because you are someone that is going to have to face your own struggles, and you can have all the tools in the world, you can have all the support, but you have to go through it alone. Otherwise, you're not going to be the person that you are meant to be. And that doesn't mean you may not become a superhero, but I'll tell you what you will have is you will have all the knowledge and the experience, and you can't. All the tools and knowledge in the world doesn't count for experience. I study. I've dabbled in martial arts, and I read a lot of samurai books. I've read a bunch of stuff about Bruce Lee. I'm sure Rich Franklin would tear me a new one because that dude probably could read all the same books, but there's a difference between reading about it and actually doing it. And you will have this skill set. You will have this experience that you don't even have to go to someone and say, hey, I know how to beat it. Here's how you beat it. Not even that. You just go to a person you just tell your story. You just go to a person that needs to hear, that is going through, that is going like freshly into what you have already gone through, and just say, hey, I went through that too. Because not feeling alone, that's a big part. No matter who you're talking to, no matter what unique cancer story they have, all they want is, a lot of people, they just don't want to feel alone. You can send in any preacher in the world and you could send in John Cena. You can send in, people that would truly inspire this person to, into a hospital if it was truly cancer, and tell them, hey, you're going to pull through because you're tough. But I'll tell you one thing, there's a little peek behind the curtain. When I was diagnosed at 16, the kind of cancer I had was kind of unique to be had by a 16-year-old. And I used to ask if there was anyone 17, 18, 19, 20, just somewhere around my age, just a little bit older than me, that has gone through a similar thing, because I want to see what they're like. I didn't want them to come flying in the window with a cape and tell me how to beat it, and tell me the secret recipe to, going home early. I wanted to just see someone that had done it before, that wasn't, 3 or 4 years old, that someone that and those kids, those were my people for a long time, and those are some of the strongest kids this world has ever known. But I wanted someone who had lived a little bit longer, that had, been to parties, had done a little rebel rousing, and then they suddenly got struck with this illness. I wanted a similar story to mine. So that's what I'm doing here. I have one friend that, again, the same person contacted me afterwards, that had an issue with suicidal thoughts and all that. And it's a bad struggle. I think on average everyone has had a suicidal thought once or twice in their lifetime. But, I mean, to the point that it is a storm that you have to, it comes at night and she did not know if she was going to make it through the night a lot of the times. Even got down to writing goodbye notes, and it's horrible stuff, but would, has a system in place to like get rid of anything that, like, hey, I'm having these thoughts. It's going to be one of those nights. And, took all the medications, tried all the medications. But what really worked was understanding and recognizing these thoughts and recognizing that now is the time to get everything put away and away from me that I could harm myself with, And it dawned on me that, hey, there are some kids out there that don't have that only understand, that don't have the tools, that don't recognize it just yet. Maybe they just got in the throes of it, and when it first hits you, it's heavy. It's heavier than you can handle. I don't care how strong you are. It's heavier than you can handle. And some people, because they don't recognize it, do something to themselves. And it's a terrible truth, and it's a terrible disease. It's not a weakness; it's a disease, And that's what I say about all this stuff, is that it's just the disease that whatever you're faced with. Addiction is a disease. Insecurity, major disease. There is a way to get around it. But yeah, 11 minutes in and I'm already preaching. So. But yeah, that's what this show is about. It's just me telling my story to anyone who will listen, and to say that if I guarantee you have a story, it's not going to be a carbon copy of this story, but what it's going to be totally unique to you. And what it is going to do is it's going to show someone that they are not alone if you will just tell your story. One thing that I truly believe, and this is something that I saw on a music video once, but it really touched me. I can't even tell you what band it was, but I really think that if everyone that felt like they were broken because of what they have been through had a firework and shot it off at a certain time, it would be the 4th of July. The fireworks would light up the sky. Because, yeah, we all have something we have gone through, going through, or will go through that is going to shape us. We are going in as a chunk of iron, and we're going to come out a sword ready for war. And the only way we get to use that is basically what I'm doing now. Get your voice out there. Do something about it. Say something. Just say, hey, I went through that too. My brother, I've said this before, went through a divorce. And thought it was the end of his life, that no one will ever love him again because now he's a divorced man. Now that's going to follow him around forever. Where some people would look at that, some people even listening right now, some of you guys might look at that and be like, oh, that was he thought his life was over. That must have been his first divorce. I've been through 3. There's always something worse, and there's always someone who has been through what you're going through, what you will go through, what you went through. War stories can heal us. And it's changing my life already, and we're only 3 episodes in. So I want to thank the Court of Cows again, do a little bit of shameless plugging, for giving me this, what's it called? This soapbox, I guess. Giving me the time and giving me the ability to put this out here for us. This is Court of Cows Presents Everyone Has Cancer with Cody Burnett. And over at Court of Cows, we talk about mainly comic books, video games, wrestling, anime. We talk about everything pop culture. There's some really good stuff going on in the DC world as far as comic books. There's some awesome stuff going on in the, obviously, that everyone knows about in the Marvel cinematic universe, and on Netflix, and just not even superhero stuff. Wrestling is getting really, really good. Yeah, I'm a wrestling fan. Deal with it. But yeah, that we talk about all that stuff. There's some awesome games coming out this month, and we're going to be doing reviews on a lot of them. We do unboxings. We do a lot of stuff. So go check us out at facebook.com/Court of Cows. And yeah, I'm a part of that group. It's me, Chris, Mike, August, and Matt. And yeah, and we give you all the news that's fit to print. So yeah, thanks you guys. I also want to say that this show, well, especially this one, is gonna get a little bit gross. There's some stuff that, I mean, I'm never gonna try and like make you throw up or anything, but some of it is kind of hard to listen to. Some of it is a little too telling, if I may say so. But yeah, just bear with me. Sometimes the show's going to be uplifting. Sometimes it's going to be dark. I'm always going to try and leave it on a positive note because, if it's going to be reality, then we got to be faced with reality. So yeah, I also want to thank, oh man, Critical Nonsense, the guys that let me use the song, that my theme song there that you heard right before this episode started. Critical Nonsense, again, a little shameless plugging, was a band I was in, a good 12 years ago. No longer a band. I mean, unfortunately, you can't really find their stuff out there anymore. Hopefully those guys will be doing stuff. I know the drummer is doing shows with a bunch of other bands. I don't really know about the other projects of the other guys. But yeah, like I was in a band called Critical Nonsense way back when, and yeah, we recorded that song and another song. We actually recorded a whole album, but all the vocals, they just did not pan out right. So, and that was my part. So yeah, you probably won't be hearing my vocals on any of those songs anytime soon, but maybe one day. But yeah, so let's go ahead, and I want to say previously on Everyone Has Cancer, we were talking about how I was diagnosed with leukemia, and then this very last episode, we were talking about all the issues I was having, that pumping normal blood presented its own kind of problems. And, my heart was so weak from pumping just garbage through my body, just cancer cells and, broken blood cells, that it was so weak that when I got normal blood, when I started getting a blood transfusion, my heart went into labor and I almost had a heart attack because it was pumping normal blood and my heart couldn't take it. So because of that, of course, if my heart's in bad condition, then my liver's in bad condition. So my kidneys are bad in condition. My lungs are bad in condition. All the things I just listed at one point or another started shutting down or collapsing because they could not handle just a normal amount of strength. That's how weak I was. And I didn't even know it at the time. I know I was hurting. I knew I was in a lot of pain. Didn't know how bad it was. But I guess it's big C bad. So yeah. This time, we talked for 20 minutes, so let's go ahead and put 40 minutes on the clock and see how much we can talk about. Okay, one thing that I do have to mention before we get into like some horrible stuff is when you go to war, when you go to battle for yourself, you kind of go in there alone. What you aren't aware of is the fact that there's things going on off the battlefield, so to speak, that don't come to your door because you kind of have your own fish to fry. Where I'm going with this is there was a girl named Leah. I'm just going to say first names because, I don't know if anyone wants their, laundry aired out. I don't want to get in trouble here. So, but there was this girl named Leah that, man, she was it for me in high school. She was the girl that, she's my first love, man. Like that was my high school sweetheart. That was the girl that, I was a love puppy in high school. I was a goth kid, yes, and yeah, go ahead and make fun of me, but I mean, my darkened vampire soul and all that stuff. And but yeah, like I was head over heels for this girl. And and funny thing is that led into a great friendship, which led into like a relationship of sorts, and then back to a friendship, back to a relationship. Where that kind of hit normalcy is when she came to visit me in the hospital, and she was the first person I told, like, yeah, you remember last couple, I think episode before last, the first episode, I guess, is I was talking about how my parents leaned down and told me what leukemia was and that I had it and all that stuff. Well, Leah was the first person that I shared the news with. But I was thinking, hey, it's leukemia. It's fine. Huh. And honestly, like, I had a good head on my shoulders about it. Like, I was just like, that's weird. I didn't know that was a real thing. As dumb as that sounds, is like, it's real. But it's like, okay, parents out there, when you were pregnant, you knew you were going to have a baby. You knew it was coming. You could feel this baby inside of you. But something happened to you when you first heard the heartbeat. When you went to the doctor's office and heard the heartbeat for the first time. That made it real. Okay? So, yeah. So it's that's the best way I can describe it. I knew leukemia was real. I knew cancer was real. Didn't really put together, like, the weight of what that meant. But just kind of thought, okay, I guess we're doing this now. And it wasn't until that, this night that, I kind of woke up and it all hit me. But I woke up later that night. I talked about this previously, and for some reason had no idea where I was. Didn't, just really thought that it was just a horribly bad dream, that I had dreamed everything up. And yeah, I woke up and had to get it re-explained to me, and that's when the weight of it hit me, and I cried and didn't know what I was going to do with myself. I think it was the next day or the day after that or something. But within the next couple days, Leah comes up to visit me, and I don't remember everything that's said, but I just remember saying, "Hey, the doctors found something, and turns out it's leukemia." And she gives me this look like, leukemia? But if you knew this girl, you know what I meant. But she looked at me like I just called her the B word, like, or just made like a really bad joke, or just like a really poor taste joke. Like, come on, don't don't joke like that. That's not funny. And she just went, leukemia, what? And had this look of kind of disbelief, like I had just made a really distasteful joke. And I was like, no, really? Like, that's what I'm faced with. And she was like, oh God, and yeah, I mean, seeing it, not everyone just like falls apart, some people, it just, like me, it takes a little bit to sink in, that you're just like, okay. Because, and I thought back to, this is the girl I ran around with in the goth days. And, she's up here with like bleached blonde hair with a corn shirt on and, big old Jinkos on. And I'm thinking she looks gorgeous and looks awesome, but yeah, it was in that time that, a lot of the kids in my group would joke about going to Shadow Mountain, which is, like a place you go when you cut yourself and try to commit suicide and have like mental problems and all this stuff. And a lot of kids would say they were bipolar when they didn't even know the meaning of it. Like everyone, all from my little group of rejects, like we all had issues, we all had problems and all that stuff. But this was real, and so I felt like she didn't believe me at first, and but really, like, thinking about it now, talking about it now, I see that she was just dumbfounded by it. Like, she didn't know what to do with it. She's a kid. I'm 16. She's 16. You know, so like she doesn't. She's never had someone in her life say that they've have leukemia. You know, this is kind of a first for me, first for her. And you know, she just doesn't know what to do with herself, and she's like, all right. And I was just like, look, just, you know, tell the guys, tell the gang, and, you know, tell everyone what's up, and you know, I just hope to hear from everyone. But, you know, just know that, you know, I still, it's funny, like, even then, I hated when people made a big deal about me, you know, so I was just like, look, just don't make it a big deal. You know, just let them know that, yeah, I have leukemia, but hey, it's cool. You know, as weird as that sounds, you know, but like that's kind of where I was going with it. Like, yeah, it's a nuclear bomb going off in my body, but you know what? It's cool. It doesn't hurt all that bad, you know? And you know, and then I had a couple more friends visit me after that. That was just kind of like, I'd play it off and be cool about it. The one that I had a hard time being cool with, though, is like my clique. There's this group of guys: Chris, dude named Chancho, Matt, Marty, and Dwayne. And we were kind of inseparable for the longest time. And that was kind of like the core group that kind of started it all. Like, we all had friends outside these five guys, but you know, when it all came down to it, we were the Justice League. Like, we were the star players. We were the captains, you know. And they came to visit. Oh man, that was a rough day. They were the first ones that came in, and you know, they all just kind of come in single file. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie SLC Punk, but you know, there's a scene in that movie where Heroin Bob, like, just see the movie to know what I'm talking about, but Heroin Bob is you know, gets into a hospital, and it's a punk rock movie, so he's like, he has electrical tape, and he's putting like anarchy symbols on everything with that, and he's got a big old anarchy symbol on his gown. So yeah, you know, they're joking about bringing me some electrical tape and stuff like that. And hey, so when are you getting out of here? What's going on? You know, and I got all the guys right there and kind of break it down and say, hey, you know, like, this is what happened. And long story short, the doctors say I have leukemia. And they all just kind of, I'm expecting the kind of normal reaction of leukemia. What? Oh man, that's a drag. That's a gas, you know. And like, but none of them say anything. I just, you know, all the heads go down, you know. And these are guys that are just tough as nails type guys. And I think Chris was the first one that I started hearing him start sniffing. And yeah, before long they were crying, and I start crying, you know, because it's a moment that, you know, I never thought I'd see, you know, and that was another big reality check that I was like, wow, I'm in trouble here, aren't I? You know, this is bad. But yeah, I remember my mom taking Chris out of the room and talking to him. Still to this day, I don't know what she said to him, but she spoke with him for a little bit. I talked to Matt for a little while. Matt and me went back to, like, all the way to elementary school, so, you know, me and him kind of had a good bond there. And I remember him saying, like, he was kind of like the boss of the group, you know, so as corny as this sounds, he was like, well, you know, you can't die because you know, you're not allowed to die. I didn't say you could die yet. So, and that stuck with me. I was always just like, okay, well, yeah, I can't die because, you know, Matt didn't say I could, you know. And And then just the biggest and the bad, like that they were. I mean, this was the group that I went out with that, never got in a fight, but would always like pick fights, and we would go out and dude, we were the bad kids. Like when we were young, we would go out and we'd go out and steal stuff. We'd vandalize houses and just be like the baddest of the bad, and smoke weed and smoke cigarettes and drink and all. This is my party crew, man. Like we were roughnecks, and now these guys that are just supposed to be the worst of the worst is like sitting here with me, and we're all crying, and I'm having to wrap my mind around it, but yeah, that was a rough time, and and they went back, and over time, they would all come visit me, and just kind of check on me. This after Leah came and after the guys came out, that's when the floodgates just opened. I had people just showing up at the hospital that were like old friends, but like not even really that close. Some of them would just come up there that I wasn't even fond of, and they were definitely not fond of me. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but yeah, like the floodgates were just opened. I had all these people just coming to the door, it was a big vault, just a big vault hospital door. So like all of a sudden the door would knock and it would open, and it wouldn't be a nurse. It'd be like Becky or Heather or Smokey, which we call them, or Tim. It would be just someone that I did not expect, that is like that has come up there to see me and check on me, or Trey. Good Lord. Just everyone came up. People were starting to call the hospital room and just to talk to me. And it was just, the funny thing is that at my school at the time, like it's Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. So I mean, like at the time, I mean, it's still kind of a small suburb of Tulsa, but it's getting bigger. At the time, it was very, very small. So this was kind of like the biggest thing to happen there ever, So suddenly at North Intermediate, where I went to school, where I got kicked out of, where I got suspended from, where I got expelled from, suddenly at the end of that first semester of ninth grade, it suddenly became cool to like Cody. That like there were signs up, save Cody. It was like save Ferris Bueller. Like my name was all over the place. You couldn't say anything bad about me. And I remember there were some people that were Dwayne that I brought up earlier. He said something like he was part of our core group that I guess he ended up saying something like I hope something happens to Cody, because I'm sick of hearing him bitch about his back always hurting. And that was taken as like somehow that got misconstrued as him hoping that I die, which all he was really saying is that he hopes like this leads to something because he's sick of me hurting, but it was just kind of the way the dude talked, and like people were gonna beat him up for saying that. Like it got nuts. And then like I had to be the godfather. Like Daniel, like the guy that was gonna, I think, do the assaulting, came up to the hospital to tell me what he was saying, and I was like, no, I already talked to him. This is what he said. Like I'm not upset about it. And then sent him on his way. So I was like the godfather of like what you can say about me and what you can't. Like it was just a very strange time. Like suddenly I had this whole gigantic group of people that were vying for me, and like I started getting jars of like pennies and just a bunch of money that people were like doing fundraisers for, like just some from the guys that had like started a fundraiser, and then some from my dad's work. And yeah, it was just, it was nuts. I mean, like so many people were fighting for me, while I'm just, laying here going through some horrible stuff. And, but like I said, no one can go through this stuff with me. And if they knew the kind of stuff I was having to face. Like I'm sure they would have still been there with me, but oh man, like that it's a very positive thing. But after a while, I got so pumped up full of Demerol that I don't remember all the people that came through. I still have people to this day tell me that they came and visited me, and I have no recollection of that. Like I don't remember them coming and seeing me, and but yeah, like Demerol is a crazy drug, like and I was pumped full of it, and having hallucinations, not having any pain, but my body's having a hard time. Organs are trying to shut down, and so by this time I look like the back of an old TV. Like I have all these cables hooked up to me. I have all these like heart monitors. I have all these machines next to me. And when it got really, really bad was when we found out, and this is something the cliffhanger from the last episode. So once I was pumped full of Demerol and had been on a steady supply of Demerol for a good few weeks, turned out I was allergic to Demerol. Had no idea. But oh man, once the Demerol hit, like just imagine like a picture of like or a drawn out picture of a dude as a glass, like to the top. That was Demerol. But once we got there, once I got full of the stuff, I started having pains like you wouldn't believe. Like I know I said, I fractured my back in 3 different places. We talked about that earlier. But my stomach started aching, and I mean like my entire stomach, like like front to back, all the way up my spine. Like I could almost outline on my nervous system by like how much this was hurting, and it was all starting at my stomach. And, I was just aching, but this weird ache, and I was all full of Demerol, so, like, I could barely move and all that. And then the worst night of my life hit. And this is something I haven't talked about ever. Just because it's disgusting. I want to warn you now that we're fixing to get gross. Like, really gross. But this night was the most horrendous night of my life because it all hit a fever pitch. I don't know what set it off, but I barely remember it because, again, I'm so messed up on Demerol. I'm so messed up on drugs. But it had to be something like a bad batch of heroin because it started... all the pain started, and I could barely speak. I could barely walk, but I kept having to go to the bathroom. I kept having to poop. And I'd go in there, and I'd be screaming. Like, I mean, you've had indigestion before. This was indigestion like you read about. Like, this is the kind that I pray that it never happens to you. That is, like, horrendous. It's that times 10, like Kamehameha times 12 type indigestion. And, I'm getting up, but it's so painful to get up and go to the bathroom, and I'm doing it all drunk, so I'm like wobbling around the room and like trying to find my way through this room that's like keeps leaning and going back and forth, and I get to the bathroom, and I go for a little while, and then I get back up, and I get back in the bed, and at this point, my mom, God bless her, and this nurse, God bless nurses just for this one night, are just cleaning up after me. They're going, oh, this is so disgusting. They're going behind me because I'm leaving a trail. Can't believe I'm saying all this, but yeah, like I get to the bathroom and I look back, and yeah, it's disgusting. And then I get to the bed, and I remember my mom handing me the bedpan and saying, just go in the bed, because I would lay there for a little bit, but then I'd get up and like the bed would be a mess, and they'd have to clean up the bed, and so yeah, I'm just, but I'm trying to hold on to my pride of like, no, I'm not going in the bed because that's way too disgusting. Like, because I still have this weird form of like the limits I won't, or like the barriers I won't go over. Like I have a limit, and it's not shitting in the bed, you know. But yeah, like it was the most disgusting, wretched night of my life, and but yeah, like once it had all like cleared my system, it was a lot better. We switched over to morphine, and that that was a whole other bag of tricks. Like I wasn't allergic to it, but hey, it's a bunch of morphine. So I mean, like I was out of it. I was gone. At this point, in my room, there wasn't, to give you an idea, just like right where the wall met the ceiling, there was this strip of bicycles, and like that was the wallpaper. It was just a bunch of bicycles, and I used to just look up there and watch the bicycles just wheel around the room, because that's what it looked like they were doing, is they were wheeling around the room. And I was so messed up on drugs that I was seeing stuff, I was believing stuff. Like I said, a preacher came to visit me, and I think I told this story. A preacher came to visit me, and he was like kind of a high-end, like big deal preacher, and I was worried he was going to make me talk, and that was going to be a bad thing because my nose had gotten up and left. I didn't see my nose leave, but I was convinced that my nose was gone, so I didn't want to talk because my voice was going to sound weird because I didn't have a nose. And and he came in, wanted to shake my hand, and I reached up to shake his hand, and my hand disappeared. So I was like, oh, man, and just lowered my hand. So basically, I wouldn't talk to this preacher. I was butt naked because for some reason I just swore off clothes at one point, and I wouldn't shake this guy's hand. So he must have thought that I was just a madman, like that I was just psychotic at this point. And they were just like, no, he's just really, really, really messed up on morphine. But yeah, everything started turning into a blur. Before long, I was with all the chemotherapy and all that. Like I was throwing up constantly. Like there was no holding anything down. I don't even remember much that I ate, but I vaguely remember my dad staying there with like a cup of macaroni and cheese and taking a spoonful, giving me a small bite, and it was like he gave me 25 cents and I threw up $50. Like I just leaned down and just started puking, and it was like I remember the taste of that taste of bile and stomach acid and all that, and and then yeah, like so because of that I couldn't hold anything down. I was just living on fluids from the IVs and through my port, and I just started dropping weight. Also during this time, this was 2001. At the end of 2001 here in Tulsa, we had one of the biggest snowstorms that we had in a very long time. And everything turned to ice, and like no one could get out. Like they were telling people to go, if they can get out, please go buy a generator and help someone else. And if you have a big truck, we could use your help. And yeah, I mean like the power never shut off at the hospital, but it was extremely hard to get to me because of this terrible snowstorm. I had been through so much, and I was so tired because just all of it, and I started flirting with the idea of just like unplugging everything and just being like, look, I can't do this anymore. And I just started, just at one point I just stopped talking because everyone was just telling me what we were gonna do. Also, like I didn't know what my voice sounded like. At one point, I hadn't talked in a few days. It could be the old goofiness of my nose disappearing, but I just remember at one point just I'll just do what they tell me to do. I got nothing to talk about. I'm here. I'm laying here. I'm waiting to die or to not die. I don't know what's going on. I'm just gonna let it go. And then I just remember my mom, like she would try to talk to me, and I just wouldn't talk back. I just didn't see the point, like I didn't see why, like what's there to say, what am I going to talk about? You've been in the room with me this entire time, and every time someone comes in, I'm being told, hey Cody, we got to go do this, we got to go to this procedure, that procedure. And hey, your platelets are a little low, so we're gonna give you some platelets. Hey, your liver's not doing that great, so we're gonna schedule a liver biopsy. Man, at one point my skin just started turning black, or purple rather. I just started having these weird. It was like purple clouds just coming over. It was never on my arms, but it started on my torso. And just worked all around my body, and I just had all these all this blackness. Didn't hurt, didn't itch, didn't anything. It's just my skin was just turning purple, and just in different splotches. Like it seriously looked like clouds of purple clouds just coming up on my body, and spreading out, and it was just a weird reaction my body had. And yeah, I still have scars from skin biopsies I had to do from that. Then, my hair's falling out. The one thing crazy about it is my weight started dropping really, really bad. And by the end of it, I would be down to 90 pounds. And for my body, that's bad. And when I was down to 90 pounds, you didn't see a person anymore. You saw a skeleton. You saw skin wrapped around a skeleton, as my brother would call it. Like you could see my skull. You could see my bones. I couldn't sit up in a chair because I could feel my spine against the chair and it hurt. I couldn't sit down without feeling like every little bit of, my butt bone and my tailbone and my hips, and like I was just literally skin and bone, and it was like The Machinist. I was very, very scary looking, and I didn't when I went to the bathroom, I think I asked to have the mirrors covered up because I freaked myself out. Because I would just see this like human skeleton walk through, and where I did have a bathroom in the room and I could like walk down to the bathroom, I would just have to be wheeled down. Just had a wheelchair next to me, or to wheel me 5 feet to the bathroom, or yeah, it got to the point where I just had to use my urinal and use my bedpan because I couldn't move. I was too weak. And, problem after problem. Now it's freezing outside. And I'm iced in. And I just started thinking that now would be a good time to go. To like just, I fought the good fight. But, and at that point, I think that the cancer itself was dead, but, now we were just trying, but all there was inside me for the longest time was cancer. So I think we were just trying to get me back to the point where, like, my body could act as a natural body and it not kill itself, or it wouldn't break from the exhaustion of it, so I at one point I was convinced I was going to die of exhaustion, that like my body could handle having cancer, but it couldn't handle getting better. And and just the health regimen that I had to do, like all the like the healing process, that was freaking hard. Like that. You might find out that a bunch of cancer patients, they don't fear cancer anymore. Now they fear the healing process. Because of all the stuff they have to do. It's so strenuous. It's so hard to do. But man, when I decided to give up, is something crazy happened, and my brother comes flying in the room one night, and he's got I'm gonna go ahead and get all Christian on you, but he's got an anointing on him. Like, he just comes in, and I thought it was Jesus himself. Like, I thought it was, I was like, oh, crap, he does come for the kids. Like, I thought, just for a little bit, just the brightness of it, just the feeling he carried with him, that, okay, well, an angel has come to take me home. But he comes in, and it's my brother, and he's all fire and brimstone about, hey, we know, and I guess it was kind of obvious that I was about to give up, and he comes flying in and says, "No, we aren't giving up. We aren't doing that. We're gonna keep fighting. We're gonna keep going. You started this fight, so we're gonna keep going in this fight. You said you wanted to fight, so let's fight." Oh man. And I talked to him for a little bit, and he said, "No, we're not going that way. We're not giving up. We've been through too much to give up, and that's not what's going to happen here. We're going to keep going because that's what you wanted to do, and I know that's what you want to do. I know the going's getting tough, but we're going to keep going. We're going to keep pushing forward, and we are not going to quit. As long as you don't quit, you can still keep going. Just never give up." And I agreed with it, and I told him I wouldn't give up, and and then we got, what was it? It was just a little bit before Christmas that I was able to go home, I think. But before that, I started, kind of coming to, and kind of getting a little bit better with it. But yeah, then, man, I don't even remember when I got to go home. I just remember this storm. I remember the storm going on inside me. I remember all the struggles. I remember bits and pieces. I remember looking around and noticing that, I have a cable hooked up to every appendage on my body, and I'm being studied by all these machines, and I'm looking around, and I have my entire family is in the room with me, and I remember thinking that was weird. Little bits and pieces. I watched The Green Mile with my dad 5 times in a row because I loved the movie so much. And by the time I got out of the hospital, I couldn't remember a word, ever seeing The Green Mile. I watched X-Men a lot, and I barely remember watching it more than once, but I guess I watched it quite a lot. I remember doctors come flying in, like the Power Rangers, every few days, just because something else was going. Yeah, scratchy voice. Something else was going on. And then yeah, suddenly I was home. And I still to this day don't remember going home. Just remember now my room was upstairs, now it's downstairs. And that my mom would wake me up every morning, and we'd have to, I still had my port, so we'd have to clean that out. We'd have to flush it. And we had these shots that she had to give me. And they're not shots in the arm, buddy. They shots in the belly. So my mom had this little, this medicine that you kept in the freezer that she would get out. She'd have to mix it, and she'd have to come over and give me a shot in the belly. And then, I had this recliner next to my bed. I would get up from my bed and go over to the recliner, and she would go make me some kind of like very plain meal, but chicken noodle soup, mac and cheese, something with peas in it, ramen, and I would just sit there and and watch TV, or I'd play a video game. That's when I was really big into Sonic the Hedgehog, so it was like I just wanted to play Sonic all the time. So I would just sit on my couch and play Sonic, and then sometimes I would leave my room. And how my house was set up, it was, you had to walk through the living room to get to the kitchen. I couldn't make it that far. Like, I would get up from my room, go into the living room, and I'd have to sit on the couch for a little bit and take a break because I was so out of breath that I couldn't, I couldn't get to the kitchen. And then I'd get up, go to the kitchen, and sit down again, and then get up, make a drink, and then go back to the living room. And then by the time I got back to the room, it was like I just did P90X. Like, it was just the most strenuous workout. And I couldn't stand up for too long without falling over. And there was just this skeleton walking around the house that, and I knew I looked scary. I'd have to go take baths, and, we'd have to put a cushion down. Otherwise, I'd hurt my butt. But... yeah, and that was, I guess that's it for the first part. Like, that's just days started going by, and as days started going by, I started getting just a little bit stronger each time. Just could go a little bit further, and obviously couldn't go back to school. By the time I was able to even go out, it was summer again, and I would get out with some friends, but I'd want to go to like Walmart or the mall or something like that, but I'd have to go get a wheelchair and be wheeled around because I couldn't do that much walking, and I was out of the hardest part of it, I guess, but definitely not out of the woods yet. I would end up having to go back to the hospital numerous occasions, and this is where we coined the phrase of calling St. Francis the Pink Plaza Hotel, because it was every weekend something would happen. Just something would happen that would put me back in the hospital. Be it I ate something that made me throw up, or that I walked a little too far, or that I was having a bad reaction to a medicine that I had to be taking, or just the idea of having to take more chemotherapy. Just because I went home didn't mean I was done with the chemotherapy. So, that brought me through like the worst of it, and now I felt like a very conscious infant, that I was having all sorts of issues, and every single issue, no matter how big, no matter how small, would always land me going right back to St. Francis and spending a few more days. And that's where we're going for next episode. Oh, and hey, that worked. There's my alarm, as you guys can hear, signifying that I have been yabbering on for about 45 minutes. So, thank you guys for listening. Next time we're going to be talking about, what are we going to be talking about next time? Is just going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and spending 3 days there, then spending a week there, then spending, 1 day there, then spending a night there, and all the struggles with that. And then, we're probably one thing I do want to talk about is what this did to my friends, because don't forget that, when you get cancer, everyone else around you gets cancer too. That's another reason why, whatever you're going through, the struggles you're going through, you're not going through alone. That's why, there's survivor's guilt, because that's a thing. So, yeah, thank you guys very much for listening. Thank you guys very much for sticking with this story. Maybe next time my throat won't be bugging me so bad, and I won't be clearing it so much. But I want you guys to, tell your story. I want you guys to send some likes, send some shares. I hope this story has touched you. I hope it has inspired you to get out there and tell your story. It's not going to be like always the funnest story. You may end up doing like I just did and just rambled for an hour. But you know what? You're going to touch someone. You're going to find that one person that whatever you said was exactly what they needed to hear. They just don't let anyone feel like they're alone, okay? Just and know that through all this, you will find your own kind of comfort. You will find your own strength just in telling your story. You will see where you have gone and the deepest darks of where you've been and how you got through it and what it means to you. Reflection is an amazing thing. And it's healing me right here and now, just being able to say this stuff. Like I said, there's some of that stuff that I've never said. I've never heard myself say. Sometimes you just need to hear yourself say it, Some things we just need to understand that what we went through was bad, but it also, wasn't something we asked for. But it was something we were given, and it was something that we can handle, even if we don't think we can. And the difference between not being able to handle something and feeling like you can't handle something is someone being there that has been through it before, that you can look at and say, well, if, hey, they went through it, I think I could get through this. So that's my story so far of my battles and my wars. I hope my story helps you. Now go help someone with yours.